Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him. I am the Alpha and the Omega, who is, and who was, and who is to come. Man, what an opening, right? Those are the very first words from Revelation, and they instantly set the stage for an absolute cosmic drama. We are thrust right into a sweeping, awe-inspiring vision that has captivated and terrified readers for millennia. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking on a genuinely monumental task, decoding Revelation and tracking its apocalyptic escalation. My goal here is to just map out this incredibly complex, highly symbolic ancient text for you. Look, we're not here to take theological sides or argue about modern doomsday predictions. Instead, we're going to look directly at the source material, follow the brilliant, escalating structure of John's visions, and understand exactly what is written on the page. Okay, let's dive into this and tame these chaotic visions into a clear, structured roadmap. We've broken the text down into 6 distinct acts. First, the letters to the 7 churches. Second, opening the 7 seals. Third, the trumpets and cosmic conflict. Fourth, the fall of Babylon. Fifth, the final judgment and victory. And finally, number 6, the new heaven and earth. Act 1, letters to 7 churches. Grounding the vision in reality. Before things get super cosmic, the text starts on solid ground. John is exiled on the island of Patmos, and he gets these direct, urgent messages for literal historical congregations in the province of Asia. Just look at how perfectly the text organizes these really varied commendations and sharp rebukes. Take Ephesus, for example. They get praised for their hard work, but warned because they've completely forsaken their first love. Then you have Smyrna, praised for enduring poverty and affliction, and they actually get 0 warnings. But then there's Laodicea. They get absolutely no praise. They're told they're wealthy on paper, but spiritually wretched. And they're warned that because they're just lukewarm, they are literally about to be spit out. By addressing these early communities and their very real human struggles right out of the gate, the text anchors all the mind-bending cosmic events that are about to happen squarely in human history. Act 2. Opening the 7 seals. The judgments begin. The narrative shifts drastically here. John is taken up through an open door into the heavenly throne room, where only a lamb is worthy to open this mysterious scroll locked with 7 seals. And this brilliantly illustrates the origin story for one of the most famous pop culture symbols ever, the Four Horsemen. As the lamb opens the first 4 seals, the devastation just escalates sequentially. Step 1 brings a white horse, representing conquest with a bow. Step 2 is a red horse, and its rider takes peace from the earth, wielding a massive sword. Step 3 brings a black horse, whose rider holds scales. This brings severe economic famine, like a whole day's wages just for a quart of wheat. And finally, step 4 is the pale horse, ridden by Death himself, with Hades following right behind him, given power to wipe out a fourth of the earth. Now, as the seals keep breaking, bringing earthquakes and skies literally rolling up like a scroll, we hit chapter 7. And suddenly, there's this dramatic pause in the text before the final seal is opened. Angels are told to hold back the winds of the earth until 144,000 people, that's 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, are sealed on their foreheads for protection. It's a huge tonal shift. Right in the middle of this escalating terror, the text makes a point to establish this massive moment of divine protection for God's servants. Act 3. Trumpets and cosmic conflict. The drama deepens. So when that 7th and final seal is finally opened, you'd probably expect immediate chaos, right? Well, instead, there's a half hour of profound silence in heaven. But that silence gets completely shattered by the sounding of 7 trumpets. And this drastically raises the stakes from human conquest to full-blown cosmic catastrophe. The first trumpets bring hail and fire mixed with blood, burning up a third of the earth. Then, something like a massive, blazing mountain gets thrown into the sea. A great star named Wormwood falls and poisons a third of the rivers. The sun, moon, and stars go partially dark. And if that wasn't intense enough, the 5th trumpet opens the abyss, releasing these terrifying locusts that look like horses prepared for battle, and they carry the agonizing sting of scorpions. It's just wild imagery. Now, in the aftermath of these trumpets, a dragon, identified as Satan, summons a multi-headed beast out of the sea. And this brings us right to chapter 13 and easily the most debated figure in the entire text, 666. Let's demystify this iconic number by strictly isolating its original context. The text explicitly calls this the number of the beast, representing a man's number. It's described as a mandatory mark placed on the right hand or the forehead, and without it, no one is permitted to buy or sell. So within the narrative, it functions as a literal tool of ultimate economic control and forced worship by this global empire. Which leads us to Act 4, the fall of Babylon, the collapse of empire. We are now guided into the next phase of the escalation, focusing on the vivid, really grim fate of the entity known as Babylon the Great. Chapter 18 announces, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." This global empire of staggering wealth, gold, and excess is brought to utter ruin in a single hour. The imagery focuses heavily on a sudden, catastrophic economic collapse. The text describes kings of the earth, sea captains, and merchants standing far off, weeping and mourning. Why? Well, because of the instantaneous loss of their lucrative trade, their fine linen, spices, and unimaginable luxury. The entire economic engine of the world just stops. Act 5, Final Judgment and Victory, the cosmic climax. Now, what's really interesting here is how the narrative builds from the fall of Babylon straight into the ultimate confrontation. A rider on a white horse, called Faithful and True, dressed in a blood-dipped robe, leads the armies of heaven to defeat the beast. Following this, Chapter 20 maps out a highly debated chronological sequence. But if we strictly follow the text's narrative logic, we see a very distinct timeline. In year 1, Satan is bound in the abyss for 1,000 years, while martyrs come to life and reign with Christ. At year 1000, Satan is temporarily released to deceive the nations one last time. Post-millennium, the dragon is finally defeated and thrown into the lake of fire forever. And this all culminates in eternity, marked by the Great White Throne Judgment, where the dead, great and small, are judged according to what they had done as recorded in the books. But before we reach the very end, check out the beautiful contrast the author draws between two distinct cities, or women, in the text. On one side, we have the prostitute of Babylon. She's characterized by smoke, weeping merchants, complete ruin, and she literally becomes a haunt for demons. But on the other side, descending from heaven, we have the bride, the New Jerusalem. And she is described with breathtaking, awe-inspiring beauty, streets of pure gold as clear as glass, 12 gates made of single giant pearls, and a city that doesn't even need a sun or moon because it is illuminated directly by God's radiant glory. This heavy dissonance between the dark, tragic destruction of Babylon and the pristine arrival of this new city is really the emotional turning point of the whole book. And finally, Act 6, New Heaven and Earth, the Utopian Restoration. We finally arrive at Chapter 21, the ultimate resolution of the text. All those intense, chaotic, and terrifying visions of judgment give way to this calming, permanent state of peace. The fundamental shifts in this new reality are massive. The first heaven and earth pass away. There is no longer any sea, which is super important because in ancient times, the sea was often a symbol of chaos and danger. God now dwells directly with humanity, and here is the text's promise of ultimate healing. Every tear is wiped away. There's no more death, mourning, crying, or pain. Through the middle of the city flows the river of the water of life, lined by the tree of life, whose leaves are expressly for the healing of the nations. It is the complete and total restoration of a broken world. We've traveled all the way from the rocky island of Patmos to a city of pure gold descending from the sky. So I want to leave you with this question to think about. How does this ancient, deeply symbolic vision of ultimate justice and restoration continue to shape our modern understanding of the end of the world? Even today, the vocabulary of this text, Armageddon, the Four Horsemen, the Mark of the Beast, a new heaven and earth, it echoes endlessly through our history, our literature, and our pop culture. It forces us to ask some really deep questions about empire, justice, and hope. Thanks so much for exploring this amazing text with me, and hey, keep questioning what you read.